The morning sun cast long shadows across the Earth Defense Force headquarters as Captain Jake Morrison walked through the quiet corridors. His boots clicked against the metal floor with each step. The building felt empty, almost abandoned. Most people had no idea what was coming. Jake stopped at the large window overlooking the city below. People walked to work, children played in parks, cars moved along busy streets. Everyone lived their normal lives. They had no clue that in 3 days everything might change forever. Captain Morrison, report to Conference Room 7 immediately. The voice came from the speakers overhead. Jake recognized Admiral Lisa Carter's voice. She sounded serious, more serious than usual. Jake made his way to the conference room. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, 5 people sat around a large table. Admiral Carter sat at the head. Her gray hair was pulled back tight, and her blue eyes looked tired. She had been working day and night for weeks. "Sit down, Jake," she said. "We need to talk." Jake took his seat. He looked around the table. General Pete Williams from the Army was there. So was Colonel Sarah Davis from the Air Force. Dr. Alex Thompson, the scientist, sat across from him. The last person was Secretary of Defense Ryan Burke. This was not a normal meeting. "What you hear in this room stays in this room," Admiral Carter said. "Jake, what do you know about the Zephyrian Empire?" "They rule most of the galaxy," Jake answered. "They have conquered hundreds of worlds. Their technology is far ahead of ours." "Why do you ask?" Admiral Carter pressed a button. The lights dimmed. A huge screen showed a star map. Red dots covered most of it. "Each red dot is a world they control," she said. "Yesterday, our deep space sensors picked up something." "Show him, Alex." Dr. Thompson stood up. He was a thin man with thick glasses. His hands shook slightly as he pointed to the screen. "We detected a massive fleet heading toward Earth. Over 10,000 ships. It's the Empire's Grand Fleet." Jake felt his stomach drop. 10,000 ships? We have maybe 50 ships total. How can we fight that? "That's what they think too," Admiral Carter said with a strange smile. "Jake, for 30 years we have been lying to everyone. Even our own people. Even you." The screen changed. It showed Earth's space fleet. Small ships, basic weapons, simple designs. "This is what the Empire sees when they look at us," Carter said. "Weak, primitive, easy to conquer." "But we're not?" Jake asked. General Williams leaned forward. "Jake, 30 years ago we found something in the asteroid belt. A crashed alien ship. Not from the Empire. Something else. Something much older and more advanced." Dr. Thompson nodded. "We've been studying it ever since. We learned things that even the Empire doesn't know. We built technology they can't imagine." Admiral Carter stood up. "Jake, everything you see, everything the public knows about our space program, it's all fake. It's a show. The real work has been happening in secret." "What kind of real work?" Jake asked. "Project Lazarus," Carter said. "On the dark side of the moon, we built a ship. One ship. It uses technology based on what we learned from that alien wreck. The USS Excalibur." The screen showed a new image. A sleek ship, smaller than the Empire's giant vessels, but somehow more dangerous looking. It seemed to bend light around itself. "How big is it?" Jake asked. "Only 400 meters long," Dr. Thompson said. "The Empire's dreadnoughts are over 5 kilometers. But size doesn't matter with this technology." Secretary Burke spoke for the first time. "Jake, this ship can do things that break the rules of physics as we know them. It can phase in and out of normal space. It can target the molecular structure of any material and simply unmake it." "Unmake it?" "Turn it into nothing," Dr. Thompson explained. "The atoms just stop being connected. The target dissolves into space dust." Jake stared at the screen. "Why are you telling me this now?" Admiral Carter sat back down. "Because the Grand Fleet will be here in 3 days. When they arrive, they'll demand our surrender. They think we're helpless. We're going to let them keep thinking that." "What do you mean?" "You're going to command our visible fleet," Carter said. "Our old ships with basic weapons. You'll put up a fight that looks brave but hopeless. The Empire will see exactly what they expect to see." General Williams smiled. "While you're keeping their attention, the Excalibur will be doing the real work." "Just one ship against 10,000? Jake asked. "Just one ship," Carter confirmed. "Jake, the Empire thinks they know everything about warfare. They think bigger is always better. They think more ships always win. They're about to learn they're wrong." Dr. Thompson pulled up more images. "The Excalibur has been testing its systems for months. We can destroy an entire dreadnought in seconds. We can hit multiple targets across vast distances. We can be invisible to their sensors. The president doesn't even know." Jake asked. President Karen Walsh will be told when the time comes, Secretary Burke said. For now, only the people in this room know the truth. And a few dozen scientists and engineers working on the project. Admiral Carter leaned across the table. Jake, I need you to understand something. When this battle begins, it's going to look like the end of humanity. Our small fleet against their massive armada. People will be scared. They might lose hope. But we'll win. We'll do more than win, Carter said quietly. We're going to completely destroy them. Every ship. Every soldier. When we're done, there won't be enough left to send a message back to their home worlds. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. All of them? All of them, General Williams confirmed. The Empire only understands strength. If we show mercy, if we let some escape, they'll just come back with more ships. We need to send a message that Earth is not to be touched. The meeting continued for 2 more hours. Jake learned about the hidden weapons platforms around Earth. He learned about the quantum disruptor technology. He learned about the dimensional phase drives that made the Excalibur nearly impossible to detect or target. When it was over, Jake walked back to his quarters. The city below looked the same. People still lived their normal lives. But now Jake knew that in 3 days everything would change. The Empire was coming, and they had no idea what was waiting for them. That night, Jake lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow he would begin preparing his small fleet for what looked like a hopeless battle. But he knew the truth now. Earth wasn't helpless. Earth wasn't primitive. Earth had been preparing for this moment for 30 years. And the Empire was about to discover that humans were much more dangerous than they looked. Fleet Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge. The massive ship stretched over 5 kilometers from front to back. Through the huge viewing windows, he could see hundreds of other ships in his fleet. Each one was a weapon of war, built to crush any resistance. Admiral, Commander Zelkara approached with a data pad in her hands. She was young for her rank but smart. Vextar trusted her reports. The intelligence summary on Earth is ready. Vextar took the pad and read. The humans had been in space for only 50 years. Their largest ship was barely 800 meters long. They had basic plasma weapons and simple shields. Their total fleet numbered less than 50 combat vessels. Pathetic, Vextar said. How did this species even achieve faster-than-light travel? They seem to have gotten lucky, sir, Zelkara replied. Our scouts believe they found some old technology and copied it, but they clearly don't understand what they're using. Vextar walked to the tactical display. It showed Earth's solar system. The planet sat there, blue and green, completely defenseless. A few small space stations orbited nearby. Some mining operations worked in the asteroid belt. Nothing that could threaten even one of his ships. Sir, should we prepare for a long siege? Asked Captain Mordak, his tactical officer. Vextar laughed. A siege? Against humans? Captain, we could take this system with a single dreadnought. I brought the entire Grand Fleet to make a point. The Grand Fleet was the pride of the Zephyrian Empire. 10,000 ships of various sizes, 200 massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets, 3,000 heavy cruisers, 4,000 destroyers. The rest were support ships, carriers, and supply vessels. It was the largest military force ever assembled. What point are we making, sir? Zelkara asked. That resistance is hopeless, Vextar said. When other primitive species hear about this, they'll surrender without a fight. The humans will be an example to the entire galaxy. On Earth, President Karen Walsh sat in the underground command center beneath the Capitol. The room buzzed with activity. Officers moved between computer stations. Large screens showed the approaching enemy fleet. Madam President, Secretary of Defense Ryan Burke entered the room. We need to make a decision soon. President Walsh was a strong woman who had led Earth through difficult times. She had been in office for 6 years. This was by far the hardest choice she had ever faced. How many people can we evacuate? Maybe 10% of the population, Burke answered. The ships just aren't big enough. Most people would have to stay behind. And if we fight? Burke glanced around the room. Most of the people there didn't know about Project Lazarus. With our current fleet, we'd last maybe an hour against those numbers. President Walsh closed her eyes. The weight of 8 billion lives pressed down on her shoulders. What about negotiation? The Empire doesn't negotiate with primitives, said General Williams, who had just arrived. They demand complete surrender. Then they strip the planet of resources and enslave the population. Across the room, Captain Jake Morrison was meeting with his ship commanders. These were good people who believed they were about to die for their planet. Jake felt terrible knowing the truth while they prepared for what they thought was a hopeless battle. Captain Morrison called Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park. She was young, maybe 25, and commanded one of Earth's newest frigates. "Do we have any chance at all?" Jake looked at her brave face. She was willing to die for Earth without question. "We have to try," he said. "Sometimes the underdog surprises everyone." The other commanders nodded. They began planning their defense. Small groups of ships would hit the enemy fleet from different angles. They would target the smaller ships first, hoping to cause confusion. It was a desperate plan, but it was all they thought they had. Meanwhile, on the dark side of the moon, Admiral Lisa Carter walked through the hidden facility. The USS Excalibur sat in the center of a massive chamber. The ship looked almost alive, its hull seeming to shift and flow in the artificial light. Dr. Alex Thompson met her at the ship's airlock. "All systems are ready, Admiral. We've run every test we can think of. The quantum disruptors are online. The phase drive is functioning perfectly. How's the crew?" Carter asked. 120 people, Thompson said. "All volunteers. They all know this is a one-way mission if something goes wrong." Carter nodded. The Excalibur's crew had been training in secret for years. They were the best pilots, gunners, and engineers Earth had. They also knew they might not survive if the experimental technology failed. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Steve Chen approached. He was the Excalibur's pilot. "We're ready to launch whenever you give the order." "Soon," Carter replied. "First, we need to let the Empire get comfortable. Let them think they know everything about us." Back on the Dominion's edge, Admiral Vextar was growing impatient. The human fleet had taken defensive positions around Earth and the Moon. Their ships were so small they looked like toys compared to his dreadnoughts. "Sir, the humans are sending a message," reported Communications Officer Talvor. "Put it on the main screen," Vextar ordered. President Walsh appeared on the viewer. She looked calm and dignified. "I am President Walsh of Earth. We are aware of your fleet's approach. We wish to discuss terms," Vextar smiled coldly. "There are no terms to discuss. You will surrender unconditionally within 12 hours. If you do not, we will destroy every human city from orbit. Your choice is simple: live as slaves or die as fools." The transmission ended. Vextar turned to his officers. "See how quickly they crumble? In a few hours, they'll be begging us to accept their surrender." But President Walsh had already made her decision. In the secret command center, she met with Admiral Carter and the others who knew the truth. "I'm authorizing Operation Thunderbolt," she said quietly. "May God help us all," Admiral Carter saluted. "It's time to show the galaxy that Earth is not helpless." As the hours passed, the Empire fleet moved closer to Earth. Admiral Vextar felt confident and relaxed. This would be an easy victory. His report to the Empire's capital would speak of total success without any losses. He had no idea that hidden in the shadows of space, the USS Excalibur was already moving into position. The small human ship phased in and out of normal space, invisible to the Empire's sensors. It had been following the Grand Fleet for hours, studying their formations, identifying their key ships. Dr. Thompson worked at his station aboard the Excalibur. His instruments showed the molecular structure of every enemy ship. The quantum disruptors could target any of them instantly. The Empire's mighty shields designed to stop energy weapons and missiles would be completely useless. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Chen said from the pilot's seat, "we're in position, awaiting your orders." Admiral Carter looked at the tactical display. 10,000 enemy ships spread across space like a deadly cloud. In a few hours, they would all be nothing but empty space and scattered atoms. "Not yet," she said. "Let them get a little closer. Let them think they've already won." The Zephyrian Grand Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. The sight was terrifying. Massive ships appeared one by one, filling the darkness of space. Each dreadnought was the size of a small city. The smaller ships swarmed around them like angry insects. Admiral Vextar stood on his bridge watching the tactical display. His fleet formed perfect battle lines stretching across millions of kilometers. No force in the galaxy had ever faced such overwhelming power and survived. "Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from Earth," reported Communications Officer Talvor. "They seem to be in a panic." "Of course they are," Vexitar said with satisfaction. "Put their military commander on the main screen." The image that appeared showed Captain Jake Morrison on the bridge of his small flagship. The human looked calm, but Vextar could see fear in his eyes. Behind Morrison, other officers worked at their stations. The bridge looked primitive compared to Empire technology. "I am Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," the human said. "We demand that you leave our system immediately." Vextar laughed. Several of his officers joined in. "Demand? You are in no position to demand anything, human. I am Fleet Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. You are looking at 10,000 warships. Your entire fleet could not damage even one of my smallest vessels." "We will defend our world," Morrison replied. "Earth will never surrender." "Then Earth will burn," Vextar said coldly. "You have 12 hours to reconsider. After that, I will begin destroying your cities from orbit. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. Vextar turned to his tactical officer. "Begin moving the fleet toward the inner system. Standard conquest formation. I want them to see our full strength." As the Grand Fleet began its advance, Jake Morrison closed the communication channel on his bridge. His officers looked at him with worried faces. They had just seen their doom approaching, and they were still willing to fight. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Park, "should we begin our attack runs?" Jake nodded. "All ships implement Defense Pattern Alpha. Target their smallest vessels first. Make them work for their victory." What Jake's officers didn't know was that every word they spoke was being heard in another location, deep beneath Earth's surface. President Karen Walsh sat in the Secret Command Center watching multiple screens. "The performance is perfect," said Secretary Burke. "Morrison's people really believe they're about to die gloriously for Earth." President Walsh felt sick to her stomach. These brave men and women were prepared to sacrifice everything. They deserved to know they weren't really going to die, but the secret had to be maintained. "Madam President," Admiral Carter's voice came through the secure communication line. "The Excalibur is in position, requesting permission to begin the operation." Walsh took a deep breath. "Admiral Carter, you are authorized to proceed with Operation Thunderbolt. Show them what humanity is really capable of." On the dark side of the moon, the USS Excalibur powered up its systems. The ship was unlike anything else in human space. Its hull seemed to bend light around it, making it nearly invisible even when viewed directly. The quantum disruptor arrays hummed with contained energy. Admiral Carter walked onto the bridge. The crew was small but skilled. Each person had trained for years for this moment. They all knew the fate of Earth rested in their hands. "Dr. Thompson, status report," Carter ordered. The scientist looked up from his station. "All systems operating at peak efficiency. The quantum disruptors are locked onto multiple targets. The phase drive is ready for combat maneuvering." "Helm, take us into the enemy formation," Carter commanded. Lieutenant Commander Chen's hands moved over his controls. The ship began to phase between dimensions. On the Empire's sensors, the Excalibur simply didn't exist. It was moving through space they couldn't detect, using physics they didn't understand. Back with the Grand Fleet, Commander Zelkara was studying the human defensive positions. The Earth ships had formed small groups around their planet and moon. It was a textbook desperate defense by an inferior force. "Admiral, the humans have 32 combat ships total," she reported. "Our smallest battle group has more firepower than their entire fleet. How long to reach optimal bombardment range?" Vextar asked. 6 hours at current speed," replied the navigation officer. Vextar was pleased. Soon he would demonstrate the Empire's power to the entire galaxy. Other primitive worlds would hear about Earth's destruction and surrender immediately. It would save time and resources. What none of the Empire officers knew was that a human ship was moving freely through their formation. The Excalibur phased in and out of normal space, appearing for seconds at a time to scan their vessels, then vanishing again. Dr. Thompson worked frantically at his science station. "Admiral, I'm getting detailed scans of their ship designs. Their hull construction is exactly what we expected. The quantum disruptors will cut through their armor like it's made of paper." "What about their shields?" Carter asked. "Designed to stop energy weapons and physical projectiles," Thompson explained. "They've never encountered anything that attacks molecular bonds directly. Their shields will be completely useless against us." The Excalibur moved deeper into the enemy formation. Empire ships passed by so close that their crews could have seen the human vessel if they had been looking in the right dimension. But they weren't. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Chen said quietly, "we're now positioned behind their command group. I count 12 dreadnoughts in the lead formation, including their flagship." Carter studied the tactical display. The Empire had arranged their ships in a classic overwhelming force pattern. The biggest, most powerful vessels led the way. Behind them came the main battle fleet. Support ships and carriers brought up the rear. "It's perfect," she said. "They're so confident they haven't even spread out." "Dr. Thompson, can you target all 12 command ships simultaneously?" Thompson's fingers flew over his controls. "Yes, Admiral. The quantum disruptor array can lock onto multiple targets across a wide area. We can hit all of them at once. Weapon status? Fully charged and ready. We have enough power for sustained combat operations for up to 6 hours. Carter nodded. 6 hours would be more than enough. The entire Grand Fleet would be destroyed in the first few minutes. But they had to time it perfectly. On Earth, Captain Morrison was giving final orders to his fleet commanders. The small human ships were moving into attack positions. To any observer, it looked like a brave but hopeless last stand. "All ships, remember your training," Morrison said over the communication channel. "We fight for our families, our homes, and our future. Make every shot count." The responses came back one by one. 32 ship commanders acknowledging what they thought were their final orders. Each one was ready to die for Earth. President Walsh watched the displays in the command center. In space, the massive Empire fleet continued its advance. The human defenders looked pitifully small in comparison. Soon the real battle would begin. "Admiral Carter," she said into the secure channel, "the Empire fleet is almost in range of our visible defenses. Are you ready?" "Ready and waiting, Madam President," Carter replied from the Excalibur's bridge. "When you give the word, we'll show them that Earth is not helpless. The next few hours would change everything." The Zephyrian Empire thought they were about to conquer another primitive world. Instead, they were about to discover that humanity had been hiding secrets that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Empire fleet moved through Earth's solar system like a dark cloud of death. Admiral Vextar stood on his bridge watching the human planet grow larger on his screens. Soon he would begin the bombardment. Another primitive world would learn the price of defying the Empire. "Sir, the human fleet is moving to intercept," reported Commander Zelkara. "They're actually trying to attack us." Vextar looked at the tactical display. 32 tiny human ships were spreading out to attack his 10,000 vessels. It was either the bravest or most foolish thing he had ever seen. "Let them come," he said. "I want to see what their primitive weapons can do against our shields." The first human ships opened fire. Bright beams of plasma energy struck the Empire vessels. The beams were absorbed harmlessly by the powerful deflector shields. Not even a scratch appeared on the massive hulls. "Return fire," Vextar ordered. "Target their largest ships first." The Empire dreadnoughts turned their weapons on the human fleet. Energy beams thousands of times more powerful than anything Earth could produce lanced through space. The first human ship exploded instantly, torn apart by forces its hull could never resist. On his bridge, Captain Jake Morrison watched one of his ships die. The crew of 43 people was gone in seconds. He felt anger and sadness, but he had to keep playing his part. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Hit-and-run attacks. Don't let them target you easily." The remaining human ships scattered, firing as they retreated. More Empire vessels returned fire. Another human ship exploded, then another. To anyone watching, it looked like a massacre. In the hidden command center on Earth, President Walsh watched her brave defenders die. Secretary Burke stood beside her, his face grim. They both knew this was necessary, but it still hurt to watch. "Madam President," Admiral Carter's voice came through the secure channel. "We're in position. Request permission to engage." Walsh closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her voice was steady. "Admiral Carter, you are cleared to engage. Show them what humanity really is." Aboard the USS Excalibur, Admiral Carter turned to her crew. "This is it, people. Today we change history." Dr. Thompson engaged the quantum disruptor array. The scientist's hands moved over his controls. All systems online. Targeting the command group, 12 dreadnoughts locked on. "Fire," Carter ordered. What happened next broke every rule of warfare the Empire understood. The quantum disruptor beams reached out across space, invisible to all sensors. They touched the molecular structure of the Empire ships and simply turned it off. The lead dreadnought, a mighty vessel 5 kilometers long, began to dissolve. Its hull separated into individual atoms that drifted away into space. In 30 seconds, the entire ship was gone. No explosion, no debris, just empty space where a mighty warship had been. On the Dominion's edge, Admiral Vexitar stared at his tactical display in shock. What just happened? Where did the Eternal Conquest go? I don't know, sir, Zelkara replied, her voice shaking. It just disappeared. All sensors show empty space. Before Vextar could respond, another dreadnought began dissolving. Then another. And another. In less than 2 minutes, 12 of the Empire's mightiest ships simply ceased to exist. Shields up. All ships, maximum defensive posture, Vextar shouted. Find whatever is attacking us. But there was nothing to find. The Excalibur remained phased between dimensions, invisible to every sensor the Empire had. Dr. Thompson continued targeting enemy vessels, his quantum disruptors reaching out to unmake matter itself. The panic spread through the Grand Fleet as ship after ship vanished into nothingness. Captains screamed orders to their crews. Gunners fired blindly into empty space. Nothing worked. The invisible death continued. Captain Morrison watched from his bridge as the enemy formation began to break apart. Empire ships scattered in all directions trying to escape an enemy they couldn't see or understand. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Park said in amazement, their ships are just disappearing. What's happening? Morrison had to act surprised. I don't know. Keep attacking while they're confused. The remaining human ships pressed their attack. Their small weapons were still useless against Empire shields, but now it looked like they were winning. The enemy fleet was in complete chaos. Commander Zelkara ran between stations on the Dominion's edge, trying to understand what was attacking them. Sir, we've lost 47 ships in the last 5 minutes. The attacks are coming from everywhere and nowhere. How is that possible? Vextar demanded. I don't know. Our sensors show nothing. No energy signatures, no mass readings, no heat sources. It's like the attacks are coming from empty space itself. Vextar had fought in dozens of battles across the galaxy. He had seen every type of weapon technology known to exist. This was something completely new, something impossible. All ships, full retreat, he ordered. Get us out of this system immediately. But Admiral Carter wasn't going to let them escape. From the Excalibur's bridge, she watched the Empire fleet trying to run. Dr. Thompson target their engines. Don't let any of them reach jump distance. The quantum disruptors reached out again. Empire ships that were trying to flee suddenly found their engine compartments dissolving into atoms. Without propulsion, they drifted helplessly in space. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Chen reported, the enemy fleet is completely disabled. They can't run and they can't fight. Carter nodded grimly. Then we finish this. Target all remaining ships. Leave no survivors. The destruction that followed was unlike anything ever seen in galactic warfare. The mighty Grand Fleet, pride of the Zephyrian Empire, was systematically erased from existence. One by one, the great ships dissolved into their component atoms. Vextar watched his fleet die from the bridge of his flagship. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, the greatest military force in known space, all being destroyed by an enemy he couldn't even see. Sir, we're the only ship left, Zelkara reported, tears streaming down her face. Impossible, Vextar whispered. 10,000 ships. How can one primitive world destroy 10,000 ships? His answer came as the Dominion's edge began to dissolve around him. The quantum disruptor beam touched his flagship's hull, and the molecular bonds that held the mighty vessel together simply stopped working. Admiral Vextar's last thought was that the Empire had made a terrible mistake. These humans weren't primitive. They were something far more dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the command center on Earth, President Walsh watched the tactical display as the last Empire ship vanished from the sensors. Where once 10,000 vessels had threatened her world, now there was only empty space. It's over, Secretary Burke said quietly. They're all gone. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication channel. Operation Thunderbolt complete, Madam President. The enemy fleet has been completely destroyed. No survivors, no escape pods, no debris. They simply no longer exist. President Walsh sat down heavily in her chair. In less than an hour, Earth had gone from facing total destruction to achieving the most complete military victory in galactic history. And the rest of the galaxy didn't even know it had happened yet. Admiral, she said, bring the Excalibur home. It's time to tell our people the truth about what we've become. The space where the Grand Fleet had been was now empty. Not even debris remained. 10,000 ships and their crews had been completely erased from existence. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the USS Excalibur, watching the empty stars through the viewing ports. Dr. Thompson, status report, she said quietly. The scientist looked up from his station. His face was pale. Even though they had planned this for years, seeing it happen was still shocking. All enemy vessels destroyed, Admiral. The quantum disruptor array performed perfectly. No malfunctions, no failures. Any distress signals get out? None, reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Sarah Kim. We jammed all their transmissions before they could warn their home worlds. As far as the Empire knows, the Grand Fleet is still on its way to conquer Earth. Carter nodded. That was important. The longer the Empire remained unaware of what had happened, the more time Earth had to prepare for what came next. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison was dealing with his surviving crews. Of his 32 ships, only 18 remained. The others had been destroyed in the opening minutes of the battle, before the Empire fleet mysteriously vanished. Lieutenant Commander Park approached him on the bridge of his flagship. Her face showed confusion and wonder. Captain, what happened out there? Where did the enemy fleet go? Morrison had been dreading this question. His people had fought bravely, believing they were going to die for their world. They deserved to know the truth, but orders were orders. I don't know, he lied. Some kind of weapon malfunction, maybe. Or perhaps they had enemies we didn't know about. It hurt to deceive these brave people, but the secret of Project Lazarus had to be maintained, at least for now. In the hidden command center beneath Earth's capital, President Karen Walsh was meeting with her top advisors. The mood was strange. They had achieved total victory, but no one felt like celebrating. The destruction had been too complete, too terrifying. Madam President, Secretary Burke said, we need to decide what to tell the public. People saw the Empire fleet arrive. They know we were attacked, but they also saw our small fleet survive while the enemy disappeared. What are our options? Walsh asked. General Williams spoke up. We could claim it was a secret weapon we've been developing. That would explain the victory and prepare people for the truth. Or we could say the Empire fleet had some kind of accident, suggested Admiral Carter, who had just arrived from the moon base. Internal explosion, navigation error, something like that. President Walsh shook her head. No more lies. Our people have been living in fear for days. They watched their defenders go out to die for them. They deserve to know what really happened. Dr. Alex Thompson entered the room carrying several data pads. Madam President, we've completed our analysis of the battle. The quantum disruptor technology worked even better than we hoped. We can now build larger arrays, mount them on space stations, even create portable versions. What does that mean for Earth's defense? Burke asked. It means we're no longer just defending Earth, Thompson replied. With this technology, we could protect the entire galaxy from empires like the Zephyrians. Admiral Carter sat down at the conference table. The question is, what do we do now? The Empire will eventually realize their grand fleet is missing. They'll send scouts to investigate. When they find nothing but empty space, they'll know something terrible happened here. How long do we have? Walsh asked. Maybe 6 months, Carter estimated. Possibly a year if we're lucky. After that, they'll come again. With more ships, better weapons, and they'll be much more careful. General Williams leaned forward. Unless we strike first. The room fell silent. The idea of Earth attacking the mighty Zephyrian Empire seemed impossible, even after what they had just accomplished. You're suggesting we invade their territory? Walsh asked. I'm suggesting we end the threat permanently, Williams replied. The Empire rules through fear and overwhelming force, but they've never faced anything like our technology. We could free hundreds of worlds from their control. Dr. Thompson nodded slowly. The Excalibur could phase directly into their home system. We could destroy their main fleet before they even knew we were there. President Walsh stood up and walked to the large window overlooking the city. Below, people were celebrating in the streets. They thought Earth had somehow miraculously survived. They had no idea their world had just become the most powerful military force in the galaxy. What about the moral implications? She asked. Are we going to become conquerors like the Empire? No, Admiral Carter said firmly. We would be liberators. Every world the Empire controls was conquered against their will. Their populations are enslaved, their resources stolen. We could give them back their freedom. Secretary Burke pulled up a star map on the main screen. Red dots showed Empire-controlled systems. There were hundreds of them. If we're going to do this, we need to move fast. Once word spreads about what happened here, other empires might try to attack us first. Other empires? Walsh asked. The Zephyrians aren't the only predators in the galaxy, Thompson explained. There are at least 6 major powers that survive by conquering weaker worlds. If they learn about our technology, they might form an alliance against us. The president returned to her seat. The weight of decision pressed down on her shoulders. A few hours ago, Earth had been a helpless world facing extinction. Now they were discussing reshaping the entire galaxy. I need to address the nation, she decided. The people need to know what we've become and what choices we face. 2 hours later, President Walsh appeared on every television, computer, and communication device on Earth. The planet stopped to listen as she revealed the truth about Project Lazarus, the USS Excalibur, and the complete destruction of the Grand Fleet. My fellow humans, she began, today our world faced annihilation. 10,000 alien warships came to destroy us. They saw us as primitive, weak, easy to conquer. They were wrong. She explained about the secret 30-year project, the crashed alien ship, the advanced technology they had developed. She told them about the brave crews who had died not knowing they were buying time for Earth's secret weapon to work. The enemy fleet is gone, she continued. Every ship, every soldier, erased from existence by technology they could not understand or defend against. Earth is safe, but our safety comes with responsibility. The president went on to describe the other worlds under Empire control, the billions of enslaved people, the choice Earth now faced between hiding their power and using it to free the galaxy. We did not seek this power, Walsh concluded. But now that we have it, we must decide what to do with it. Do we hide and hope the galaxy leaves us alone? Or do we step forward as protectors of freedom and justice for all intelligent life? The response from the population was overwhelming. Within hours, surveys showed that over 80% of Earth's people supported using their new power to liberate other worlds. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers wanting to join what people were already calling the Liberation Fleet. 6 months later, the USS Excalibur led a small fleet of newly built ships into the heart of Empire space. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge as they phased directly into the Zephyrian home system. Past all their defenses and warning systems, Dr. Thompson, target their home fleet, she ordered. All ships targeted, Thompson replied. 200 dreadnoughts, 500 cruisers, over 1,000 smaller vessels. Show them the same mercy they showed their victims, Carter said coldly. Fire. The quantum disruptor arrays reached out across space. The Empire's home fleet, the final symbol of their 1,000-year reign of terror, dissolved into atoms. The liberation of the galaxy had begun. Within 2 years, Earth's liberation fleet had freed over 300 worlds. Other oppressive empires fell one by one, their mighty fleets no match for human technology. The age of galactic tyranny was over. Humanity, once thought primitive and weak, had become the protectors of freedom throughout the stars. And it all began with one hidden prototype that annihilated an empire's grand fleet in a single, terrible hour of judgment.